Hello and welcome back to another video on this channel. Hope you're having a great day, and today I'm going to be doing quite a bit of a change on this channel for once. This is the video 3 biggest mistakes that Christians make in a day-to-day basis, and it's something which was on my mind of late because recently Rationality Rules put out a bit of a comment section or on a community post where he said, well, what are the biggest 3 mistakes that atheists make? Cameron Bertuzzi and Joe Schmidt got together to make another video which was 3 common mistakes that atheists make, and I was like, well, why not just turn to like Christian mistakes? And that's something which is very interesting because we see that happening a lot, by atheists making problems about Christians and then Christian making problems about atheists. But then there's an interesting thing about, well, maybe you should be making or talking about what other mistakes that you think your own side makes, and it opens up that discourse to say that, and to demonstrate the fact that you're not all about defeating the opposition, but you're really trying to reach a certain goal, like the truth, a generous spirit in debate and discussion. So that's something that I want to foster on this channel, and that's something, and one of the reasons why I've decided to make this video, the 3 greatest mistakes that Christians make. So without further ado, let us get right into the video. So essentially, as you can see, I am wearing a Chelsea shirt and I got my wrist in a cast. It's because last night I got a wrist surgery done on my wrist. I fractured my scaphoid like a year ago, but then finally, since it's been hurting and it hasn't healed yet, I did get a surgery. I was put under general anesthesia, so my mind's not perhaps in the best place today, but I thought, well, I've gotten home, may as well make a video for you guys. Haven't been really too tight or stuck to my schedule that much, but that's just kind of how it goes. Things come up and, you have to deal with that first. I'm also wearing the Chelsea shirt because Chelsea got into the Champions League finals. Come on, you Blues. Absolutely pumped, absolutely hyped for that, to watch the team play in the finals. To be honest, I'm just really happy about that. I watched it from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. after the surgery last night, which went to around midnight. But, it was an absolutely amazing experience. Biggest match in the last 9 years of the Chelsea career. Biggest match since I've supported Chelsea, and it's absolutely great feeling. But you're not here to listen to me talk about football or my broken wrist. Just keep those in mind. So you might just to realize that my mental state might not be in the best place right now. However, let us get into the 3 biggest mistakes made by Christians. And as you can see, I don't put them in any particular order. Not all of these only apply to Christians. Sometimes these do apply to atheists as well. So, I mean, everyone could learn from these 3 mistakes, I think. And some other people might not think that these are mistakes, or some other people might think that these aren't the biggest mistakes and there are others. And if that's the case, and if that's you, then make sure that you let me know in the comments below. Let us get into the first 3, the 3 main points. Well, point 1 is indeed following societal trends and pressure. And that's something which has really come up into my mind over the last few years. And this is essentially the idea that Christians, instead of trying to follow what God says, they just try to take the easy way out. And that, what does it mean by taking the easy way out? Well, it means that when society tells you something, or society wants you to follow a certain narrative, instead of trying to turn back to the Bible and saying, well, what is the Bible telling you to do? What is the Bible saying? Instead of turning to what God wants for you in your life, instead of turning to the scripture, you turn to save your own skin and follow society. And a lot of these could include like controversial moral issues, like abortion, gender issues, and all those things, which are controversial, but there is a clear biblical answer to it. And it's very important that we stick to that biblical narrative instead of just following whatever the societal trend is, because the society will always be changing around us, but God remains eternal, and we have to follow God. And that doesn't mean we get everything right or get the interpretation right of God's words all the time, but at least we have to try our very best to interpret God's words. And when we reach a correct interpretation of God's words, we follow that, and we don't just say, well, I don't want to be insulted by my friends, I don't want to lose my friends, and as a result I'm going to drop key Christian beliefs. That's not right. You have to think and approach it from a pragmatic stance, and you really have to take a step back and say, well, what does the Bible say, instead of saying, what does society want me to believe? So that's one of the biggest problems I see in Christianity today, whether it's among some Christian YouTubers, some famous Christian pastors on TikTok like Brendan Rodgers, or Brendan Robertson, I forgot exactly his name, but if you want to see a video where I respond to him saying that Jesus is racist, I got a card up in the top so you can go check that out after watching this video. And also, just a quick thing, it's that that's why I also see among some of my friends as well, a few of my Christian friends also are trying, in order to please society, have shied away from presenting that Christian view, staying to that Christian view, because they're afraid of persecution. And I completely understand it, but that's why we need a good defense. And I'm not trying to sell my book, however. However, you should just bear in mind that I do have a book published where I give you a brief defense for all of these controversial issues called Christianity for All. The link will be in the description below. You can get it on Kindle or on Amazon, where you can buy a paperback copy. So that's the information there. And you can also find discussions about that on my channel in previous videos as well. So that's just something you might want to keep in mind and see how it goes. So let us turn to the second big mistake that Christians make. And I want to make it very clear that these are not in any particular order. They're just kind of the first three problems that came to mind, and I wrote it down on a piece of paper. So second big problem is losing focus on the real goal. And what I mean by that is, it's like every time you're doing something, you have a purpose in mind. You have something in mind that you want to achieve. You want to obtain a certain end. For example, maybe if it is perhaps you're a Christian, you're trying to evangelize. If you're an atheist, you might want to be trying to convince them that God doesn't exist. If you are a Buddhist, you might be wanting to push people towards enlightenment, to give good karma out in your life. And in each situation, and you could, in each more specific situations, you can find further parts where there are indeed more, you can find parts where you have more specific goals, and every situation is different. And when you're doing that, you have to really keep that goal in mind, because I think a lot of times people start losing the main goal in mind and only start focusing on something else, which is very attractive, but not really the best thing to do. For example, so many people try to win the debate, for example, or win the argument, but they just are completely blinded by the truth, or blinded by their prejudices. And instead of trying to just search for the truth, they just instead want to just win the debate. They want to destroy or defeat or insult or make the other person feel bad. And that's something which is really wrong. And I see this happening with atheists a lot, and I sometimes see that happen, and I also see that happening in Christians a lot. So this is not a very specific Christian mistake, but it is a Christian mistake, because Christians do make that sometimes. People, instead of trying to focus on the truth or trying to promote charity, do actually spread hate instead, which is definitely not good. And that's why I've updated a comment disclaimer, or a comment section kind of rule, where we all have to be respectful in the chat. Don't call people names, don't call God names, or don't be mean in the chat towards anything which might be offensive. Yes, there is goodness in disagreeing, and I don't think disagreement is offensiveness. I think disagreement is good and should be promoted. However, at the same time, if it comes to name calling and just irrational name calling, I think that is indeed unreasonable and just an extreme belief which is not accepted anywhere and should be quelled or stopped whenever possible. So that's my second problem, is losing focus of that real goal. Instead of trying to search for the truth or evangelize or spread kindness and love to other people and be a charitable person, instead of doing that, sometimes you just want to focus on winning the debate so much you want to push the other person down. That is just really unnecessary and just not very good in general, be it a Christian, an atheist, or Hindu, whoever you are. It doesn't really matter. That's just something that you want to keep in mind whenever you make a discussion or a debate with anyone. Just focus on your goal and really try to follow it. Unless your goal is trying to insult someone, that just, you might want to rethink your priorities there. So that's the second problem. And finally, the last one is getting lost over small disagreements. And this does happen on the atheist side, but it also happens on the Christian side perhaps a bit more. And I'm more worried about it happening on the Christian side, because sometimes I feel really sad when these things happen. And what do I mean over these small disagreements? I'm not saying that these small disagreements are unimportant. However, I'm saying that sometimes, in the same vein as my second one of losing focus on the real goal, sometimes these collisions within the church are just very harmful to watch. And these collisions have happened throughout the history of Christianity, from the contradiction, not the contradiction, but the conflicts between the Protestants and the Catholics, from the conflicts between some young earth creationists, some old earth creationists, from some conflict between King James Version Bible only and NIV, and all these different small groups or small ideas of people thinking about different ideas about the Bible or things in general. It's very often that people like to say that I'm right, you're wrong, and when you're disagreeing with me, that means you're trying to purposely twist the Bible, you're supporting Satan, you're purposely representing a misinterpretation. And a good example of that would be Ken Ham and William Lane Craig, where Ken Ham just kind of was saying that William Lane Craig was not being honest, and that there was a bit of a debacle over that, and that just, it goes up and perhaps is more was more significant, especially during the Protestant and Catholic fights, when people's lives were actually lost and there was actually some persecution going on within the Christian community. And that's very sad, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to reach a relationship with God. And as you might realize in this video, I'm generally a guy who believes in quite a good nature of humans. I generally try to believe that people are genuinely good and are just misguided. But sometimes it is indeed very sad, and that people would try to just suggest that another Christian is not trying their best, or just suggesting another Christian is wrong, and then saying that they're not a good Christian, or insulting them and saying, well, you're not trying to follow God, you're deceiving people, you're spreading your false prophet. And it's true, some people do spread misinterpretations. There are indeed misinterpretations within the church, but there's a difference between having a misinterpretation and purposely spreading misinformation, because sometimes I don't know the best thing. A lot of us don't know fully 100% certainty what is true or not, because at the end of the day, not anyone can say anything is truly 100% certain, or at least to a great degree of certainty. It's very difficult for every situation to be the case. In fact, even some quantum physicists, there's so many different interpretations of quantum mechanics, but then each physicist will be presenting their own opinion, their own viewing of quantum mechanics, and trying to represent that, and they're doing it out of goodwill. They're not trying to spread misinformation, they're not trying to spread fake news, they're just trying to do the best with the knowledge that they have. And that's generally a thing that I like to see in people. It's like, most Christians are probably trying to do their best for the relationship with God. They're trying to spread what they think is the truth. And maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're wrong, and maybe they have a misinterpretation. But that doesn't lead us to suddenly start insulting them, saying, well, they're not a good Christian. They're trying to spread misinformation. That's not true. A lot of them genuinely want to spread the good word and spread the good news and evangelize and strengthen their relationship with God. They just genuinely don't see where they're wrong, or they genuinely think that their misinterpretation is right. And that's when we try to guide them. That's when we try to give them advice, try to point them in the correct direction. However, despite doing that, that does not justify any insults or any harmful critiques or just an attack against someone's intentions, because I don't think that is the case, because I disagree a lot with some of my Catholic friends, or I disagree a lot with some of my Christian friends and my Protestant friends as well, but never, or I rarely or never would say that they're purposely spreading misinformation, because I genuinely don't think that's the case. I genuinely think that they're trying their best, but unfortunately are failing. So that is my final big problem about Christianity, is that they're getting lost over small disagreements. Christianity has to stand tall and stand strong as a church. In the Bible, it says that no house can stand, or no house which is divided can stand. And that's when he basically is talking about an analogy of, well, is Jesus Satan? Because if Satan is destroying the devils or the demons in this world, then how can Jesus be Satan? Because Satan cannot fight against himself. And in the same way, we cannot fight against ourselves. The Christian community, yes, we can have disagreements, but we have to keep our minds on the greater goal, which is God and evangelism and spreading the truth and the beauty of Christ to others. We cannot get caught up with these small details, which will do nothing but ruin and harm the church and the overall perception of Christianity. So that's something that I just really want us to keep in mind. These are indeed the three biggest mistakes I think Christians make. If you disagree with me about any of these three things, make sure to let me know in the comment section below. I'm happy to hear your thoughts. I'm happy to hear your ideas. But I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you watch it till this point, then I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have and want more content like this or apologetics, then let me know. By liking and subscribing, it really supports the channel, really helps us grow, really helps this project. This is indeed a channel made for you, by me, to really help you out with your relationship with God, or answer some of the most important questions in your life. So have a great one, stay safe, like always, God bless. Hope to see you soon. Goodbye, and thank you for watching. Have fun, my friends.